Imagine, a brother steals everything from his own sister. Her rightful share, her father's legacy, her future. He leaves her with nothing, builds a palace for himself. But 10 years later, karma strikes back so brutally that his entire home is destroyed. This is the true story that will shock you and prove that justice always finds its way. Bitter revenge begins, right now. Amina was 4 years younger than her brother Bilal. They grew up in a modest family home on the outskirts of Lahore, sharing laughter, fights, and the simple dreams children have when life feels secure. Their father, Chaudhry Sahib, owned a fertile ancestral plot of agricultural land in rural Punjab and 3 modest rental properties in the city. He was old school but fair-minded. He often said the same thing while sipping tea on the veranda: the land belonged to both his children equally. Son and daughter, both are equal, he would declare, ruffling Amina's hair as Bilal shrugged it off like it didn't matter. Their mother died when Amina was 12 and Bilal 16. Cancer took her quickly. The house felt emptier, quieter. Chaudhry Sahib never remarried. He threw himself into work, tending the fields, collecting rents, making sure school fees were paid. Bilal stepped up as the man of the house, learning to handle tenant complaints, check crop yields, and drive his father to doctors in the city. Amina buried herself in books. She was brilliant, always first in class, dreaming of medical college so she could one day open a clinic and ease her father's burdens. Time moved on. Bilal married at 25. His wife, Saima, came from a city family with connections and ambitions. She expected a certain lifestyle. A bigger home, branded clothes, foreign trips. Bilal began spending less time in the village and more in Lahore's upscale circles. He told their father the farm work was too much for an old man alone. "Let me take over the paperwork, Abu. You rest." Chaudhry Sahib, his health declining from years of diabetes, handed over the keys, literally and figuratively. Bilal started managing the land records, rent collections, and even minor sales of subdivided plots. Amina was in her 2nd year of medical college by then. She came home on weekends, noticing the new SUV in the driveway, Bilal's gold watch, Saima's imported handbags. She assumed her brother was succeeding. "I work so hard," she told friends. At 23, Amina got engaged to Haris, a soft-spoken civil engineer from Islamabad. The wedding was kept simple at her insistence. She confided in her father one quiet evening. "Abu, when the time comes, I want to use my share of the land for something meaningful. Maybe start a small dispensary in the village." Chaudhry Sahib's eyes lit up despite his frailty. "Of course, beta. Everything will be divided equally. I've already spoken to the old lawyer. Papers are ready." Bilal heard the conversation from the hallway. His jaw tightened. That night he sat alone with his father. "Abu, Amina is still a child in many ways. Once she marries, her husband will control everything. Our family land will be divided, sold off to strangers. Think about your legacy, the name, the bloodline." Chaudhry Sahib frowned. "She is my blood too, Bilal." But Bilal kept at it for months. He shared stories of other families where daughters took their shares and the land fragmented into useless pieces. Saima joined in, sweetly reminding the old man how tirelessly Bilal worked while Amina only studied. Doubt crept in slowly, like damp rot in old wood. Then the stroke came. Chaudhry Sahib collapsed at 68. He was paralyzed on one side, speech slurred, mind foggy from medication. Bilal moved him to the city house, hired round-the-clock nurses, but controlled who saw him. Amina, deep in final exams, was told Abu needs rest, not visitors. One stormy afternoon Amina arrived unannounced. She found Bilal in the study with a new lawyer. "What's happening, bye?" Bilal didn't flinch. Abu was finalizing his will properly to prevent future fights. Amina's stomach dropped. But he always promised equal shares. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "Chaudhry Sahib has instructed that the agricultural land and primary properties go to Bilal, who has managed them for years. You will receive cash, jewelry, and one small flat. Amina rushed to her father's bedside. Abu, is this what you want? His eyes were cloudy, voice barely audible. Bilal knows best, Beta. She pleaded, tears streaming. Bilal stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Don't stress him more. This is his decision. That night Amina refused to leave his side. In a rare lucid moment, her father squeezed her hand and whispered, Beta, check, old safe, behind the family photo, papers. She didn't grasp it fully. The next morning he slipped into a deeper coma. 2 days later he was gone. The funeral drew crowds. Everyone praised Bilal for handling arrangements so well, for caring for his father in his final days. After the 40 days of mourning, Amina asked about the inheritance. Bilal handed her the will registered, witnessed, ironclad. Everything major went to him. She got a modest bank balance and some gold. But Abu promised, she began. Bilal sighed theatrically. He changed his mind when he saw reality. You were getting married. Haris would have taken your share anyway. Amina exploded. You manipulated him. He was sick, drugged, you forced this. Bilal's voice turned cold. I protected our father's legacy. Be grateful I didn't throw you out completely. Heart shattered, Amina left with only her clothes, books, and memories. She married Haris in a quiet ceremony. He held her through the night she cried. We'll build our own life, he promised. Amina finished medical school on scholarships and sheer will. She became a doctor, took a government job in Islamabad. They had 2 children, a son and a daughter. Life was modest but warm. She never badmouthed Bilal in public, but the wound never healed. Word filtered through relatives, Bilal had sold large chunks of the land, built a luxurious house in a posh Lahore society, started a real estate side business. Saima hosted lavish parties, traveled abroad, posted pictures of luxury cars and designer outfits. Amina channeled her pain into purpose. On weekends she ran a free clinic in a nearby village, treating the poor without charge. Patients called her Dr. Amina, grateful for her kindness. 10 years after the funeral, Amina was 38, respected and steady in her career, when her phone rang. It was the old family lawyer, her father's original one, the one Bilal had quietly replaced years ago. Dr. Amina, I have kept something for you all these years, as per Chaudhry Sahib's strict instructions. You should come. She met him the next day. He handed her a sealed envelope and a small brass key. Your father feared betrayal. He prepared everything in secret. The original land deeds showing equal ownership are in the old family safe, behind the large photo in the village house. And this is the genuine will he signed long before the stroke. Inside the envelope, yellowed documents, clear signatures, dates proving her equal right. A short handwritten note from her father. Beta, if injustice happens, use this. Forgive if you can, but never forget. Protect your children the way I failed to protect you. Amina's hands shook. Tears fell onto the paper. She finally had proof, undeniable, legal, devastating proof. She didn't act immediately. She planned. Carefully. Deliberately. Amina sat in the lawyer's small, dimly lit office for nearly an hour after he handed her the envelope. The documents felt heavier than they should. Yellowed paper carrying the weight of 10 lost years. The genuine will was dated 5 years before her father's stroke, witnessed by 2 village elders and the old family lawyer himself. It clearly stated, the agricultural land, city properties, and all assets to be divided equally between Bilal and Amina. There was even a separate codicil her father had added quietly, instructing that if any coercion or undue influence was suspected, the earlier will should stand and the later one be challenged immediately. She drove home in silence, the brass key to the old family safe resting in her purse like a loaded weapon. Haris was waiting when she walked through the door. Their children were already asleep. She didn't speak at first, just placed the envelope on the dining table and sat down. Haris read everything slowly, his face hardening with every page. "This is fraud," he said quietly. "Clear cut. We can take him to court tomorrow." Amina shook her head. "Not yet. Courts in Pakistan move like glaciers, especially with land disputes. Bilal has money, connections, and half the local tahsil in his pocket now. If we file straight away, he'll destroy evidence, pressure witnesses, drag it out for decades. I've seen it happen to others." Horace nodded. He knew her well enough to trust her instincts. "Then what?" "First, we verify everything is still intact. The safe is still in the village house, behind the big family photo in the drawing room. Bilal rarely goes there anymore, he's too busy with his city life. But we need to move carefully. No one can know we have this yet." Over the next few weeks, Amina began working in layers. Layer 1, Documentation. She quietly hired a trusted private investigator in Lahore. A retired police officer recommended by a colleague. His job was simple: shadow Bilal's business dealings without raising alarms. Within a month, the report came back thick with photos and records. Bilal had sold over 60% of the original agricultural land in small parcels, pocketing crores. He had also taken loans against the remaining properties, using them as collateral for his real estate ventures. 2 of the city rental buildings were now heavily mortgaged. If the market dipped or payments missed, everything could collapse like a house of cards. More importantly, the investigator found something critical: the forged will Bilal had registered after their father's stroke had been notarized by a lawyer who was later disbarred for forging documents in other cases. That was a crack in the armor. Layer 2, Allies. Amina reconnected with the 2 village elders who had witnessed the original will. Both were still alive, both remembered signing it clearly. One of them, Uncle Rafiq, had even kept a copy of the document in his own locker just in case. She visited them separately, bringing tea and memories of her father. They were furious when they learned what Bilal had done. "We signed because your father trusted us," Uncle Rafiq said, eyes wet. "We won't let this stand." She also reached out to distant cousins who had long disliked Bilal's arrogance. One cousin, a junior revenue officer in the tahsil, quietly pulled old land records showing the original mutation still listed both names, Amina and Bilal, as co-owners before Bilal's secret transfers. Layer 3, Personal Preparation. Amina didn't tell many people, but she started building her own financial buffer. She took extra shifts at the hospital, saved aggressively, and even invested small amounts in mutual funds through Horace's advice. She knew a legal battle would be expensive. She also began documenting every interaction with relatives who still spoke to Bilal, casual mentions of his wealth, his boasts, his complaints about family burdens. Meanwhile, life on Bilal's side seemed golden from the outside. He had moved into a sprawling new bungalow in Dha Lahore. Saima hosted iftar parties during Ramadan that made society pages. Their son was in an elite school, their daughter had dance and piano lessons. Bilal drove a Range Rover and talked openly about expanding the empire. But cracks were forming beneath the surface. The investigator reported late mortgage payments on 2 properties. One tenant had filed a complaint about irregular maintenance. Bilal's real estate deals were increasingly risky, speculative plots bought on borrowed money during a property boom that was now cooling. Amina waited. She waited until the timing felt right. 8 months after receiving the documents, she made her first quiet move. She filed a simple mutation correction application in the local revenue office, nothing flashy, just requesting the land records be updated to reflect the original co-ownership as per the pre-stroke documents. She attached certified copies of the genuine will and the old mutation entries. Because it was a routine clerical request, it didn't immediately alert Bilal. But the revenue officer, her distant cousin, processed it slowly and deliberately, sending a formal notice to Bilal as the current recorded owner. The notice arrived at Bilal's office on a Tuesday morning. He called Amina that same evening. His voice was calm at first, almost amused. "So you've decided to dig up old ghosts, huh?" Amina kept her tone even. "Just correcting the record, by Abu's real wishes." He laughed, short and sharp. You think some old paper will undo 10 years of my hard work? I built everything from nothing while you played doctor. This will end badly for you. I'm not asking for a fight, she said. I just want what's mine. You'll get nothing but embarrassment. I have the registered will. Judges don't care about village gossip. He hung up. But Amina knew the seed was planted. Bilal would now be nervous. He would start checking documents, calling lawyers, pressuring officials. And every move he made would leave a trail. Over the next 3 months, she escalated carefully. She had the disbarred lawyer's old cases pulled, public records showed a pattern of forgery. She got affidavits from the village elders affirming they had witnessed the true will, not the later one. She even located one of the nurses who had cared for her father during his final weeks. The woman remembered Bilal limiting visitors and helping the old man sign papers he could barely hold. Then came the second move. A civil suit for declaration of ownership and cancellation of fraudulent transfers. Filed in the district court, it named Bilal, Saima, as co-beneficiary in some sales, and the buyers of the sold parcels as defendants. The suit asked for an injunction to freeze further sales until the matter was resolved. The day the court issued notices, Bilal's phone didn't stop ringing. Buyers panicked. Banks that held mortgages got wind of the dispute. One lender immediately demanded early repayment on a large loan. Bilal came to Islamabad unannounced. He showed up at Amina's house on a Saturday afternoon. Haris opened the door. I want to talk to my sister, Bilal said, jaw tight. Amina stepped out onto the porch. The children were inside watching cartoons. What do you want, bye? Drop this nonsense, he said. I'll give you 50 lakhs cash. Walk away. You'll never win. Amina looked at him, really looked. The expensive shirt, the watch, the confidence that had once intimidated her. Now she saw fear behind it. 50 lakhs for land worth crores? For my father's betrayal? No. His voice dropped. You're ruining everything. My family, my children, they'll suffer because of your greed. She almost laughed. Greed? I've never taken a rupee that wasn't mine. You took everything. Now you feel what it's like when the ground shifts. He stepped closer, voice low. You think you're clever? I can make this ugly. Socially. Professionally. People talk. Do what you have to, she said. I've waited 10 years. I can wait longer. He left without another word. That night, Amina sat with Haris on the balcony. It started, she whispered. Haris took her hand. And it won't stop until justice is done. She nodded. The storm was building. Bilal's empire, built on lies, was beginning to tremble. The court notices hit Bilal like a slow-motion avalanche. At first he treated the lawsuit as a nuisance, something he could buy off or intimidate away. He hired one of Lahore's most expensive property lawyers, a man known for dragging cases until the other side ran out of money or patience. This is nothing, Bilal told Saima over dinner the night the summons arrived. She's bluffing. Amina has no stomach for real war. But the evidence Amina's side presented was surgical. The original will surfaced in certified court copies. The village elders' affidavits were ironclad, two respected men in their 70s who had nothing to gain and everything to lose by lying under oath. The disbarred lawyer's history of forgery became exhibit after exhibit. Even the nurse came forward with a sworn statement. She had seen Bilal place a pen in Chaudhry Sahib's trembling hand and guide it across papers the old man could barely see. The judge, an older woman with a reputation for no-nonsense rulings in inheritance matters, granted a temporary injunction within weeks. No further sales, transfers, or mortgages on the disputed properties until final hearing. Banks froze accounts tied to the collateral. Buyers who had purchased parcels in good faith panicked and filed cross-claims against Bilal for misrepresentation. Bilal's first real crack appeared when one of the larger mortgage lenders issued a default notice. He had missed 2 payments already, cash flow strained from lavish spending and risky new investments. The bank threatened foreclosure on 2 city buildings. He scrambled, sold a luxury car privately to cover one installment, but the damage spread. Word traveled fast in Lahore's real estate circles. Bilal Chaudhry's empire is shaky, people whispered at dinners and golf clubs. Potential partners backed out of deals. A major housing society project he was banking on fell through when the developer heard about the pending litigation. Saima felt it first at home. The parties stopped. Invitations dried up. She started arguing with Bilal nightly. You said this was all secure. Now what about the children's school fees? The club membership? Bilal snapped back, blaming Amina, the courts, everyone but himself. Amina watched from afar. She didn't gloat. She attended every hearing quietly, dressed in simple salwar kameez, speaking only when asked. Haris accompanied her each time, a steady presence. Their children knew only that Mama is fixing something important from long ago. 6 months into the case, the turning point came during cross-examination. Bilal took the stand. Arrogant at first, he claimed the later will was voluntary, that their father had changed his mind freely. Amina's lawyer, a sharp, low-profile advocate who specialized in family land disputes, produced phone records from the final months of Chaudhry Sahib's life. Calls between Bilal and the disbarred lawyer. Text messages where Bilal instructed, "Make sure it's all in my name. Handle the signatures." The messages had been recovered from an old phone Bilal had discarded but never properly wiped. The investigator had tracked it down. The courtroom went silent as the judge read them aloud. Bilal's face drained of color. He stammered, "Those are out of context. I was just helping Abu." The judge wasn't impressed. She adjourned for the day but ordered Bilal not to leave the city without permission, clear sign she was leaning toward fraud findings. That evening, Bilal came to Amina's house again. This time he was alone, no bluster. He looked 10 years older, bags under his eyes, shirt wrinkled. "Please," he said on the doorstep. "Withdraw the case. I'll give you half of whatever is left. We can settle out of court." Amina stood in the doorway, arms folded. "Half of what's left after you've sold most of it, mortgaged the rest, and lived like a king on Abu's legacy?" "No. I have children too," he pleaded. "They didn't do anything wrong." "Did I?" she replied softly. "Neither did I when neither you took everything and told me I'd get nothing but embarrassment." He broke, then actually broke. Tears came. Was scared, Amina. Scared the land would be lost. Scared of becoming nothing. "You became nothing the day you betrayed your own blood," she said. "Now live with it." She closed the door gently. The final judgment came 9 months after filing, faster than most expected, thanks to the overwhelming evidence. The court declared the post-stroke will null and void due to undue influence and fraud. The original will stood. All subsequent transfers made by Bilal were set aside where possible. Buyers who had acted in good faith were compensated from Bilal's personal assets. The remaining land, about 40% of the original holding, was restored to joint ownership, but with Amina's share protected from further alienation without her consent. More devastating. The court found Bilal guilty of civil fraud. He was ordered to pay Amina compensatory damages equal to the value of the sold portions, estimated at 8 crores, plus legal costs and interest. When he couldn't pay immediately, the court attached his remaining properties and personal accounts. The banks moved in next. Foreclosure proceedings began on the mortgaged buildings. The DHA bungalow was put up for auction to satisfy the judgments. Saima's jewelry, much of it bought with disputed money, was traced and partially seized. Bilal's business collapsed. Partners vanished. Creditors lined up. Within a year, he was forced to move back to the old village house, the one place he had rarely visited since their father's death. The same house where the safe still sat behind the family photo, now empty because Amina had quietly retrieved the last documents long ago. Saima left him 6 months after the verdict. She took the children to her parents' house in Karachi, filing for khula and demanding maintenance he could no longer afford. Relatives who once flocked to his parties now avoided his calls. Amina never took pleasure in watching it unfold. She accepted her share, quietly kept the remaining land intact, started the small dispensary she had dreamed of in the village. Profits went back into free medical camps. She hired local staff, trained village girls as nurses. The clinic bore a small plaque in memory of Chaudhry Muhammad Hussain for all his children equally. One day, 2 years after the judgment, a relative called Amina. Bilal is sick. Very sick. Diabetes complications, like Abu. He's alone in the village house. No one visits. Amina drove there the next weekend. The house looked worn, peeling paint, overgrown lawn. Bilal opened the door slowly. He was thin, limping, eyes hollow. He didn't speak at first. Just stayed. Amina stepped inside. The family photo still hung on the wall, her father smiling between his two children. "I'm not here to forgive," she said quietly. "Not yet. Maybe never. But I won't let you die alone like this." She arranged a private nurse, paid from her own pocket. Regular medicine deliveries. She visited every few weeks, not to talk much, but to sit. Sometimes they spoke of old days, of their mother's cooking, of childhood games. Sometimes they sat in silence. Bilal never asked for more than that. He knew he didn't deserve it. One evening, as the sun set over the fields their father had once walked, Bilal whispered, "I'm sorry, Amina. For everything." She didn't reply immediately. Then softly, "Sorry doesn't bring back 10 years. But it's a start." She left the village that night, knowing the house would stand for another generation, not as a monument to betrayal, but as proof that justice, when patient, finds its way. Karma hadn't just destroyed Bilal's home. It had rebuilt hers. So that was Amina's story, a sister who stayed silent for 10 long years, then fought for what was hers, and karma tore her brother's world apart. Justice may be late, but it never forgets. If this revenge tale hit hard, smash that like button. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next karma explosion. Drop a comment. Have you ever been betrayed like this? What would you do if it happened to you? See you in the next bitter revenge story. Until then, remember, karma, remaining land intact, started the small dispensary Sthi had dreamed of in the village. Profits went back into free medical camps. She hired local staff, trained village girls as nurses. The clinic bore a small plaque, in memory of Chaudhry Muhammad Hussain for all his children equally. One day, 2 years after the judgment, a relative called Amina. Bilal is sick. Very sick. Diabetes complications, like Abu. He's alone in the village house. No one visits. Amina drove there the next weekend. The house looked worn, peeling paint, overgrown lawn. Bilal opened the door slowly. He was thin, limping, eyes hollow. He didn't speak at first. Just stared. Amina stepped inside. The family photo still hung on the wall, her father smiling between his two children. "I'm not here to forgive," she said quietly. "Not yet. Maybe never. But I won't let you die alone like this." She arranged a private nurse, paid from her own pocket. Regular medicine deliveries. She visited every few weeks, not to talk much, but to sit. Sometimes they spoke of old days, of their mother's cooking, of childhood games. Sometimes they sat in silence. Bilal never asked for more than that. He knew he didn't deserve it. One evening, as the sun set over the fields their father had once walked, Bilal whispered, "I'm sorry, Amina. For everything." She didn't reply immediately. Then softly, "Sorry doesn't bring back 10 years. But it's a start." She left the village that night, knowing the house would stand for another generation, not as monument to betrayal, but as proof that justice, when patient, finds its way. Karma hadn't just destroyed Bilal's home. It had rebuilt hers. So that was Amina's story. A sister who stayed silent for 10 long years, then fought for what was hers, and karma tore her brother's world apart. Justice may be late, but it never forgets. If this revenge tale hit hard, smash the like button, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next karma explosion. Drop a comment. Have you ever been betrayed like this? What would you do if it happened to you? See you in the next bitter revenge story. Until then, remember, karma doesn't sleep.